The final step is to make the occlusal table. So we start by tracing the limit of the occlusal table, which is the marginal edge. The occlusal grooves are drawn. The buccal one runs along the buccal view, enters the occlusal table and takes a lingual direction, then heads for the mesial side and ends by the mesial marginal fossa. Then the lingual groove originating from the lingual side takes a distobuccal direction at the occlusal table and ends in the distal marginal fossa. We will start with the marginal triangular fossa. We will leave 2 mm thickness for the marginal ridge, 1.5 to 2 mm depth, then eliminate the soap. We will create marginal fossa, which is triangular and limited by the marks already made. In the same way, the distal marginal fossa is created. Now we will carve the shape of the occlusal grooves. Use the same shape drawn as before, but with the Stahl spatula. Then draw the corresponding edges for each triangular ridge of the cusp. They should be oriented like this. Next, we will remove near the groove in the occlusocentral direction of the cusp to obtain occlusocentral convexity. The Stahl spatula or the plaster knife can be used to create this convexity while respecting the limits and shape. To do this, trace the limits of the internal slopes of the cusps to make the rounding in the mesiodistal direction on both buccal and lingual sides. Then follow these limits to make the convexity in both directions, mesiodistal and occlusocentral directions. Start with the mesiobuccal cusp, then the distolingual. For the lingual side also, in the same way we must obtain the convexities. Then we move on to the rounding of the oblique ridge, the mesiolingual and distobuccal cusp together. Start with the mesiodistal direction and respect the direction of the two cusps that form an open angle on the mesial side. On the buccal and lingual sides, we need to emphasize the internal slopes that help to give the cusps their convex shape. Excesses are always removed and areas that have already been made, such as triangular fossa and grooves, are cleaned and care is taken not to deepen them more than necessary. For the oblique ridge, at this stage, it is only convex in the mesiodistal direction and is flat between the buccal and lingual cusps, as you can see here. What we need to do is make a small separation in the form of a very shallow groove to separate distobuccal and mesiolingual cusps. We must trace its location and then make the separation appear in the form of a small angle. Scrape all along the axis of the triangular ridge of cusps, respecting their convexity in the mesiodistal direction. The groove can be deepened slightly until an angle is obtained, as you can see here, in the form of a small gap. We touch up and clean up the already rounded surfaces. Before moving on to the next step, one important thing we must do is the inner slopes of cusps in the mesiodistal direction. They must be traced and redone if they have already been erased or are not clearly visible. To make sure the job is done properly, we retrace the occlusal table limits, the triangular edges, and make sure that's correct. Now we move on to the bulbs or triangular edges convexity. We trace their limits, leaving 1 mm from the cusp tip, and we begin to draw the grooves in the form of figs for all cusps. The mesiolingual cusp has two triangular edges separated by the Stuart groove. It should be continuous with the buccal groove and not divide the two triangular edges completely, but both have a common tip. We make the connection between the bulb of the distobuccal cusp and the distal bulb or triangular edge of the mesiolingual cusp, and don't close the fig shape, but it should remain open where the two cusps are joined. Finish with the tracing, then start rounding. We need to highlight the convexity of this triangular edge by following the edge. Particular attention must be paid to the Stuart groove that separates the two triangular edges of the mesiolingual cusp. They must not be separated. So the aim of this step is therefore to reveal the double convexity in both mesiodistal and occlusal-central directions. Once the main bulbs have been rounded off, we move on to the secondary bulbs. This part should also be rounded, as you can see here. After a good cleaning, you should have grooves and clear convex bulbs. We round off the marginal edges and give triangular marginal fossa shape. At the end of this stage, the oblique ridge is well rounded and convex. The two triangular edges form an angle between them. The final step is the Carabelli cusp. It's a V-shaped, located opposite to the mesiolingual cusp. After tracing with the pencil, we trace with the spatula, then remove soap to create a sort of a staircase. The removal must be done occlusally to the tracing while keeping the convexity of the cusp in the mesiodistal direction. That's what we should have at the end of this step.